Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode, Todd's House of Speed. And you can see we have in the background here, let me point, there we go, I'll get the camera right, our 2015 Durango, and we're going to do oil service today. We're going to do a tune-up, like this is air quotes, half, a tune-up, and there's some interesting things that I'm going to talk about with spark plugs, maybe not a lot of you know, or even procedure. And also, one of the problems we're having is in the morning, and I pretty much know what's going on. In the morning, it doesn't want to start, meaning crank, by the remote key. So we're going to find out what's going on, and I'm going to put a voltmeter in the battery, and we're going to crank it, and I'm going to show you that, and that's what we're going to use to diagnose that. All right? Stick around. Okay, so here's the issue. When you use the remote starter, it starts to crank and it doesn't. Okay, that's the first thing. So it won't crank. It starts to, but it doesn't. And the other thing is, I've noticed when I drive it lately in the past few months, when you first start to crank it, like it struggles, like there's not enough oomph from the battery. And we're in the fall of the year, so it's getting colder, and then that situation's more pronounced. So I am certain that this thing needs a battery. Other than that, it's charging, everything seems to be fine. So I've got our fluke meter here, and I'm going to zoom in on it for y'all, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus in on the voltage, because I want to see what the voltage is going to drop to when I hit the crank. All right, so when I first crank it, I want to see what the voltage is registering. Okay, so give me a moment. Okay, so we're looking at the voltage right now on our fluke meter, and it's 12.53 volts, and that's pretty good. So we're going to go in and crank it, and I won't even know what it is till I look at the video afterwards. All right, so brought our Durango in, and just a little bit of an electrical class, or maybe not a class, just a little bit of subject of the battery. I went and reviewed the video because I'm cranking it, I can't see what's going on, and it pretty much confirmed what I saw in the video, what the meter was saying. Okay, DC voltage, direct current, automotive, 12 volts. All right, so the standard, industry standard. So the battery is at 100% charge, not capacity, charge. If you put a voltmeter on it and you see 12.6, and you might see a little bit more if it's a little bit overcharged, but that's the number we're looking for, okay, or close to it. And in the video, I think looking back, it was 12.4, 12.53 or something, so we were close, or at least close enough, but that was the battery at rest. And here's the important thing, I wanted to test it overnight, and it's a little bit chilly, it's a fall day here. Matter of fact, y'all probably in the first video heard the leaves rumbling around or rolling around. Anyway, so it's a little bit chilly, so that's the ideal time to check it, okay? Next thing, minimum cranking. So the industry average is 9.6 volts, so it's 3 volts difference. So if you have a voltmeter on it and you're cranking it, it should not be either at or below 9.6, okay? That's the industry standard for a long time. Okay, so what did we actually measure? So when I went and looked at it, the voltmeter, I'll show you what I saw, because it happened very quickly, because that initial hit where it cranks and you got the highest load, right? The initial hit, and still the engine starts cranking, and that's where you're going to see with anything, the highest load is when you just hit it, all right? This is what I saw reviewing the video. 8.3, 8. So why is that? What's going on? Okay, so there could be a couple of things going on real quick. You could have the starter, you could have high resistance in the circuit, or there could be something in the starter that is consuming more current flow and drawing the voltage down. So that's a could be, okay? But typically, with starters, especially, this is kind of light duty, you know, light trucks, SUVs, cars. My experience is when the starter starts to go and like drawing a lot of amperage, you know, current flow, they'll start to make funny noises like this groaning. I don't know, it's kind of like a high pitched, I don't know. I know what it sounds like. It's kind of hard to describe it on video, but in this case, I didn't hear anything, and then once it gets going, it's fine. And there's been some other issues with this that, this is our daily driver essentially, is that everything else seems to be fine. It's charging. Matter of fact, on the video, it probably shows you because I'll let it run for a minute. So what we were measuring is, I was really only concerned with voltage because I'm almost certain the battery is on the way out, okay? So the actual measured 8.3, okay? So back to our original problem. So what's going on? Okay, well, from this, and basically through my experience, I know the battery is basically at the end of its life. It doesn't have the capacity, the well of water to draw from, and without getting too technical into battery speak, let's just say it's at the end of its service life. So it's still functioning, but that well of water is not as deep, okay? Not as much capacity as it used to be. So that's why we're dipping, and I know that's why. Now, if I had doubts or something before, and I suspected it was high resistance in the circuit, like poor connections, or maybe I suspected the starter, but I didn't really check it, or maybe I suspect the starter, I didn't really hear it. So in that case, I would put an amp clamp on it, and I would measure the current. It's like water flowing through a pipe, current. So two things could be happening. I know that based on experience, basically the battery is the problem. So that's why we only did a voltage check for any of you out there that are questioning it or maybe more experienced, all right? So 8.3, okay, so you need a battery. But why is it, here's the thing, why isn't it remote crank, okay? So when you hit the key from inside the house on a cold morning or a hot day and you want the air conditioner to come on and you've got the crank on your remote, so why isn't it working? Well, here's the thing. So the manufacturer, and this is all late model vehicles, all of them, basically there's a threshold in the programming in the engine control module that if the voltage, I don't know what it is, but my guess is if it gets close to 9.6 or maybe whether it's 2/10 of a volt or whatever, but basically if it gets close to that, it'll shut the crank off. It's programmed to just disconnect. Now again, this is with the remote. So why is that? It's a protection built in, designed in from the factory, programmed into the firmware, not software, firmware, or some people would say the BIOS, the basic function of the control, the engine control module. And if it falls below the system voltage, certainly it'll just cut it right off. And why? It's because to protect the engine from struggling, and the starter's trying to start the engine and it doesn't have the voltage and the current and it'll struggle, and you could actually like fry the starter, believe it or not, because it's cranking and it's struggling, and things could go wrong in a big hurry. So it's the protection built in. So that's the diagnosis was the voltage, and then the resolution or the answer to the problem is the battery. It just needs a battery. So, but no, that's why the remote crank doesn't function. All right, that's just really the point I wanted to get to. All right, y'all. So enough of battery class. So watch for another video. If I haven't already said this, I'm going to do a battery install, and I'm going to show you who I recommend. There's a lot of companies, a lot of choices. So I'm going to show you who I pick for my daily driver stuff, or most of my stuff. And I'll show you the install, and that's going to be a separate video. So what is it here today for? Okay, so I'm pointing, so I'm going to point in a minute. So we're going to do an oil service today. This is what today is going to be. Oil service today, we're going to do, and I'm going to show you a few tips. I'm not going to drag it out, be really quick with it. Also, spark plugs, we need to replace the tune-up. Spark plugs, it needs the air filter, needs wiper blades, and a few other things. So I know all this is kind of basic, but you might learn something. So stick around, and I'll make it interesting, I promise. And I'll go through like really quick so I don't bore everybody. All right? Stay tuned. All right, so there's 4 things we're going to do today. And we're going to do an oil service, with some help here from somebody that's coming in. Want to do an oil service, tune-up, tune-up. Windshield wiper blades, going to talk a little bit about those. And I'm going to tell you, you can take something as simple as that and you can do a lot of damage if you don't know how to put a set on, okay? Just real simple stuff. And also we're going to do the passenger side windshield washer nozzle. So just a real quick story. So you see that? Not a happy smiley face at all. So I purchased a non-OEM, not from Mopar, windshield washer nozzle, and it's crap, okay? Just something as simple as that. I don't know what's going on with parts today, but anyway. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna roll through it and just, be simple, give you some tips, all right? Stick with me. All right, so let's come up here and see what's on our goodie tray, or what goodies are on our tray. Okay, so looking down, I'm gonna point. So we've got Trico Ultra. These are a beam blade, the top really kind of very good pair. I got all this off Rock Auto, by the way. So Rock Auto, if you're listening, you could send me some sponsorship money or something, or maybe some free stuff, because I buy a whole lot of stuff. Anyway, okay, got all this off Rock Auto. I can't speak highly enough about them. Deal a lot with them. Okay, so really good set of windshield wiper blades. And then Molly, that's a Molly air, that's how it's pronounced, by the way. It's not Mol, it's Molly, okay? And this is the air filter for the engine, and then back behind it, there's a cabin air filter because I'm due for that. If anybody has, if you're curious, look at my other videos. There's and I wouldn't say an odd, but kind of an unusual HVAC problem, and I won't spoil it, but this has a lot to do with it. All right, so look at my other Dango video on that. All right, so enough about that. Then we have spark plugs. Okay, Bosch spark plugs. This is the OE supplier. This is the OE fitment to this vehicle. And this thing, believe it or not, some of y'all may already know, but this thing is V8. It's 2 plugs per cylinder, okay? 2. And and I'll explain why they used, on the late model of the Gen 3 Hemis, why they use 2 plugs per cylinder. And here's a hint. It's Daimler, the parent company of Dodge Chrysler, major influence in the design of the Gen 3 Hemi, and they use dual plugs on a lot of their engines as well. So that's kind of where the technology, and I'll explain why they do that. We've got 5, 6, 7 quarts of 520 motor oil. Okay, it's high mileage. So it's not real high detergent. That's what that means. Basically, this thing has got, I don't know, 120 or 30,000, something like that on it. And then this is the offending part that now I'm putting on, or will be putting on, is the Mopar windshield washer nozzle. And I'll explain, I used another aftermarket and it was a waste of money and waste of time. Okay, whatever. Okay, so that's our goodie tray right there. That's our buffet. And we'll get going. What do you think, boy? You going to help me, or are you just going to supervise? All right, so we got the hood open, and there's our 5.7 Hemi there. Says so, right? Just so you all know, the W stands for winter, if nobody knows. That's SAE is the Society of Automotive Engineers, or it might be Society of American Engineers. Either way, okay. So there's your cap, and I'm going to show you. So basically what I do, I take it like this. You see what I'm doing? I put it off to the side, and I leave it like that. And then what I'm going to do now is drain the oil, and I do that to ventilate the crankcase, essentially the inside of the engine, and the oil will drain out sooner. The other tip is, and that works, believe it or not, the other part is I ran this engine for about 2 minutes or so. It's kind of chilly outside. But it's a good idea, even on a warm day, is just circulate the oil, get it maybe a minute or two before you drain it. That gets everything out of there, and the oil heats up a little bit, flows out of there, and it just goes a little quicker. All right? Cool. Now we're going underneath the car. Okay, so I'm under the front of the vehicle, and you can see we got it on race ramps. That's what I have. And so it's stabilized, and you can see that this little door is missing. I guess people got tired of taking it on and off, but this is like basically the splash pan underneath. So here's your drain plug, takes a 17 millimeter. There's our oil filter,
and I'm going to tell y'all basically who I use as far as oil filter, at least for this. So, two things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove that plug, get it going, and hopefully not spill any. I say hopefully. And then we're going to let that drain out completely. And then we're going to go up here and do the oil filter. And if y'all notice, the Hemi engines, unlike a lot of other domestics, they actually, the way this oil filter is, they've got actually that metal piece coming down so the oil will drain kind of out of the way. That's why it's there, which I think is somebody was thinking about the technician for once. All right, let's go. All right, so we got our oil draining and got the plug out with not too much drama. And speaking of the drain plug, so I always have a rag, just something to this, and this is with anything, something I can set the drain plug on and let it kind of just chill out there and drain off. And so we're going to give it a few minutes and we'll get back to this, all right? And I'm going to show you the magic of that drip spoon thing. So you see, guys and gals, sometimes the engineers actually do think of the lowly technician. Now, I hate to use the word always and never. So for this vehicle, Wix, they're high-end. Wix is high-end engine oil filters. And another brand is Purolator. They're high-end. Or I use frequently Bosch. They're premium oil filters. Why? Why do I do that? Well, I'm not going to sit here and extol the values of this over, say, a popular name like Fram or something else. But just know that some of those oil filters that are very popular and have all these lot of marketing behind them, trust me, they are not always the best. I mean, by far, if you cut one of those open. And a lot of times you're paying premium, but you're not getting, and I'm not saying it's just Fram, and I'm picking on them because it's like easy, but you're not really getting what you think you're getting. You're basically paying for marketing and advertising. You're not necessarily paying for a premium filter, okay? All right, now we're going to pour the goodness in. Now, if I can get this just right. Y'all out there, you waiting for me to spill it? Not going to happen. Just saying. So I know, like on TV or whatever, you see them pouring it from the other way and the spout's upside down, whatever. Putting the last quart in. And this takes 8. Takes 8 quarts, just saying. For some reason, I thought it took 7, so just make sure. I actually had to go to the auto parts store and buy a couple of more. Anyway, 8 quarts. Okay, everybody, so behind the scenes, I started the engine up, make sure that the oil, there was no oil leaks, everything was fine from the filter to the plug. I know that sounds really simple, but it's some of the best people I've ever worked with and mentored me when I was like a long time ago. Was they always check their work. And that, I mean, even the simplest thing, man, they always checked their work and then moved on. You never have to guess. So anyway, that's what I did. So the other thing I did was went to reset the oil life, and you do that through the menu settings, and it would not set. So let's go in. Okay, so we're in the vehicle, and for whatever reason, ever since we've had this, when I reset the oil, because I've changed the oil a bunch of times, and you basically go through the menu settings in the steering wheel. Let me see here. You can see, so we have our dash, and what happens is you access the oil life menu and the other things, or some of the things, through the buttons on this side of the steering wheel. You bring up the menu. For whatever reason, it will not reset through the menu, and I've even tried to look, and I've been through the manual, I've been through the whole thing, and for whatever reason, it just won't reset. And I mean, like, I've tried it a bunch. So a bunch of different conditions. So the one thing that seems to work pretty well is, and I just tried this because I've been around the block a few times, and it was pressing the accelerator to the floor 3 times all the way back up within 10 seconds. And man, that works with a lot of vehicles, believe it or not. And so what I did was It seems to work with a lot of domestic. I don't think about in Europeans, but the European vehicles. So, and so what you do, you turn the key on, all the way, position 2, whatever that is in your vehicle, position 2, like to run. And as soon as it goes on run, push the accelerator floor back 3 times. Okay, so put it to the floor, lift up, put it to the floor, lift up, put it to the floor 3 times, 10 seconds, and then turn the key off, completely off. And then most of the time, believe it or not, it works. I mean, it works with a lot of vehicles, and sure enough, it worked with this. So again, I don't know why, and I'm a pretty curious guy. Like when something doesn't work, I want to know why. All I know is through the procedure, regardless of temperature or whatever's going on, it will not reset. So anyway, that's my tip for if you have an American vehicle or maybe even Asian. If it won't reset, just try the accelerator pedal to the floor 3 times, lift up in 10 seconds, and man, it works a lot. Anyway, tip, and we're going to move on. All right, so this is your air filter housing. So if you look down, get my fingers in the way. So there's 2 clips. We're going to pop those back. This piece will kind of we'll kind of pivot it up because it has kind of tabs in the back like slots. And so we'll kind of pick this and pivot it up and sneak the air filter out with too much drama, okay? All right, here we go. Pop these off, and then we'll just kind of scoot this back. And be really careful, and yeah, we can just lift this right out of here. And yeah, we all think. I think it's time for a new one. Yeah, that thing's pretty dirty. As a matter of fact, I'll say we've had this thing for like 2 years, and I've never replaced this. Okay, my bad. Anyway, out with the old. I'm going to toss this in with the new. I'm going to put these back in the tabs, and we're going to take the clips, the spring clips. All right. And we're done. Yay. All right, so now onto our spark plugs, and you see I've got 16 here in a question mark. So the Gen 3, the 5.7, and of course the rest of them takes 2 plugs per cylinder, so 16 plugs. So why do they do that? So that technology comes from Daimler, who used to own and was a huge influence in a positive way, which at the time was Dodge, Plymouth, Jeep, all the platforms, and especially the engines. So here's the interesting thing is, so it's 2 plugs per 1 cylinder, and how they do that, again from Daimler, is both plugs do not fire at the same time. The first plug lights, and before it's done, it cascades into the second plug. So there's basically, the first plug starts and it cascades, and it all happens in like milliseconds. And so why is that? It's because to take and have a very long spark duration that's really not possible with coil saturation and dwell time and all that. So the easiest thing to do is have 2 plugs and have a long spark duration, happens very quickly, milliseconds, and you get a really complete combustion burn, okay? So let's go. So we have our Bosch spark plugs. You see here we got, well, twice as many as we normally need. And what we're going to do, so Bosch is the original equipment manufacturer and then of the spark plugs, and the original equipment would be most likely Mopar, the Mopar brand of Dodge, Jeep, all that. So this is the correct spark plug application and what is supposed to be in there. And I got these off Rock Auto, and they were competitively priced. And I don't know what they were, man, but 16 of them, like, anyway. So that's what we're gonna do. And then we're gonna like turn this thing around, and we're gonna go in here. Already got our fender covers, you know, old towels or whatever, just like to be careful. And then we're gonna take the engine lid off, it just kind of snaps on. And let's just take a look. It just kind of, I'm gonna reach in here. Let's see. Just kind of lift it off. Just kind of sits in there with like little snaps. We're gonna put it to the side. And then you can see it's a little dirty in there. So what we'll probably do, or what I am gonna do, is I'll take compressed air and I'm gonna blow out just so nothing falls in as I take the coil packs off. So simple, 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 man. Just a little preventive, take some compressed air. If you don't have an air compressor, I feel sorry for you. But if you don't have an air compressor, use a leaf blower. Get all that stuff down there before you start taking the coil packs off, because you don't want any of that stuff to fall down in the cylinders, okay? And I'm actually curious to see, we've owned this thing for, I guess, about 35, 40,000 miles. We bought it used. I think it's been taken care of, which is why we bought it, as far as the maintenance records. But I'm curious to see if it still has the original spark plugs, or somebody has maintained it and basically at the 60, 80, however many miles. We bought it when it had 90,000 on it, or right at 90. So I'm curious to see if it has the original spark plugs, and you should be able to tell. We'll look at them. Or somebody maintained it. But anyway, it's time. It's got almost 130 on it now. And it's really time, in my opinion, it's time for the second round. All right? Stay tuned. All right, so we got some light down here and hopefully a pretty good camera angle. We're just gonna blow this stuff out. We're gonna make real sure that there's nothing underneath the coil pack. Okay, and now we're gonna hit the other side. All right, we're gonna hit this side. All right, folks, so if you watch me, if you caught that, I was actually blowing, taking the compressed air and getting up in the connectors for the coil packs. Let me show you. So a lot of times, see, there's your connectors, and then it's kind of hard to see. There we go, on that side, basically to depress that tab right there to pull the connector off. So a lot of times what happens is dirt and dust and stuff gets packed up in the connector, and when you push the release tab, you're basically pushing against dirt because there's not a lot of movement in that thing. And so you just want to make sure that, again, if you have compressed air, if you don't, a leaf blower is better than nothing. And you get in there, so basically you're not fighting the connector. There's dirt back there that, you know, that it won't, the tab won't release because you're basically pressed against like material in the back. Anyway, that's why I did it. All right, so stay tuned, and I'm gonna take the coil packs off. Even though it looks dirty, I got all the loose material off. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start on the driver's side. Doesn't make any difference. Okay, y'all stick with me, all right? All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is, this is our crankcase vent hose, so we're on the driver's side, and I'm gonna start from the front. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go real quick through all of them, but I'm gonna do one cylinder at a time, basically speed the video up as I go through the rest of them, so I'm not boring y'all. And then what we'll do is I'll take the first two out and we'll do a little comparison and see what they look like, all right? So the first thing we do is like pull this off, because this is over top that, and we'll just set this up here so we don't forget about it. And then we'll take the clip down here, just press in, comes right off. Then we'll take these are 10 millimeter, by the way. So I do not have a 10 millimeter short socket. That's why it looks awkward. It is a little bit, but that's all right. We'll get the job done. And we'll get that going. Okay, I'm gonna set them aside up here, out of the way, so I don't bump them. I always do that. So I'm not setting them in front of me as I lean over. Okay, got it. Okay, we'll do a little wiggle, wiggle dance, gently pull out. So it looks like there's the factory, there's a little bit of lube up in there so it doesn't stick to the plugs, all right? Y'all tracking with me? We'll set that off to the side. Get my spark plug socket. It's 5/8, by the way. All right, let's try the shorter one. Yeah, I think, yeah, that looks good. That's a baby bear, just right. Dun, 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 Jeopardy music, something like that. Maybe drum roll, because when we take this out, I'm curious to see what it looks like. Y'all see it as soon as I do. All right. Let's see. Let's see if I don't know if y'all can focus. All right, let me take it out. And what does it say? These are NGK. So hold on, let me see. Yeah. I'm about 99% sure that NGK is not the original manufacturer for Mopar. Just saying. Although they do make an excellent plug. But so that gives me some pretty good indication that this was reasonably taken care of. Let me see. So there we go, a little bit of light, and then you can look. It's got a fine wire. I know it's kind of like, let it focus here. Really fine, and it doesn't look like worn too much at all. It looks really good. Worn some. I don't know if you can, we'll get it up. But not terribly. I've done this for a long time, and I'm guessing what's going on is I think that they had plugs put in it maybe 60, 80,000 miles, because we bought it at 90. We put about 30 on it, and I'm just guessing, but looking at the plugs, they've not been in there too long. I say too long, maybe 40,000, a little bit more. But usually, if you have a vehicle, that's one of the almost dead giveaways, the plugs, because I think the maintenance, I think right off the top of my head, I think it's 100,000 miles, give or take, for plug replacement, unless it's severe duty. I know I'm close. Whatever it is, I think that I'm pretty certain that they've changed the plugs. That's a good sign. It's a good sign, because if somebody's willing to invest in that and put good plugs in it, whether they did it themselves or took it somewhere. Anyway, so good stuff, and we're going to put better stuff in it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one plug at a time, so there's not crap getting down into cylinders, okay? So here's all our spark plugs on our tray. 16 of them, as I said. And here's the replacement. Just took them out of the box. So here's our Bosch units, and what we're looking for, thread length. You want to make sure like they at least somewhat match up, well, pretty much exactly match up before I say that. And they do. And I'll show you another video. Look for another video in my series where I was working on a BMW and took out plugs, and they were two different kinds in there. I mean, like, not manufacturer, two different thread reaches, and the possibility of what could have happened. Anyway, so I'll look for that in another video, because I'm going to have one exclusively for that, all right? Okay, so it looks like we're good to go, and I'm going to start, I'm going to take, this is what I do. I take all of them out, make sure they're all the same, and then I stack them here and then basically get going, all right? Add is this spark plug socket. I don't know if it's, you can see it, but most of them have a rubber piece down here to basically hold the plug, so it grips it by the insulator. So it's kind of, it won't fall out. Y'all see that? Or some of them are magnetic anyway, so that's why I'm confident I can just drop it in, but be really careful. I know it's all obvious. Be really careful when you drop it in there and start it by hand, okay? And here we go. Okay, I just had it seated. I just felt it seat. And this actually has a crush washer on it. So you're going to go a little bit tighter than normal. And it's about that much, folks, believe it or not. Okay. Okay. On to the second plug. And here we go. Okay, I seated it with my fingers. Put a wrench on it, Put a ratchet on there. About that much. Good to go. All right, so I'm just looking in there and make sure there's, I don't know if y'all can see, but we're good. There we go. Make sure the springs, sometimes those things will, and that's for resistance, by the way, for, so radio interference or electrical noise, essentially, and they look good. So we're going to slide them back in and see if everything is all okie dokie. Oh yeah, smooth, smooth, smooth. So there, put our 10mm head bolts back in. Just by hand, tighten it down. Okay, these are just snug. They're not, I mean, this valve cover is plastic or plastic composite. Okay, that's good. And we'll take a connector, take a look at it. We're good. All right. Okay, so we're good on that. So only 14 more to go. It'll be quick on y'all's end. Driver side done. Yay. All right, get ready to do the passenger side now. And I'm not going to do the whole thing like, because you just saw me do in a very quick time, the driver side. So no big thing. The one thing I find interesting is there's like this fuchsia mark on the coil packs on the passenger side, but on this side, blue. But I know the coil packs are all the same part number. So I'm not sure why they do that, but I'm always kind of like fascinated what the markings mean. All right, so stay tuned. And if I run into any drama, I'll let y'all know, okay? Okay, see this? So we have exactly 8 plugs left, okay? None over here. And so the reason I do it is, now I threw the old ones away just to keep track. Believe it or not, it helps, okay? So as I take the old ones out, they go here, and I take one at a time. You see them got it grouped in twos, right? I know it sounds really simple, man, but I'm telling you, like, even like if you had 4 spark plugs, it's like that Clint Eastwood movie. Was it 4 in the chamber or 5? Or maybe it was 6? I don't know. But do you know? Okay? It's the same thing. Keep track of your stuff you take out and keep inventory of what you're putting in. That's why I do it. Okay? This might go without saying, but you would be surprised. Don't ever put ever, like Taylor Swift, okay? Ever put anything on the threads to put them in the cylinder head, okay? And I mean like anything. You would be surprised at some of the stuff I've seen. So if you look at this, let me just kind of look. So one of the ways it dissipates heat, not just the spark plug, but the upper combustion chamber, is through the contact of the threads with the cylinder head. And in this case, it has a crush washer and the seat, basically to dissipate the heat in the combustion chamber, and then through the insulator right here, the rest of the way. So it's really important that there's nothing on this at all, okay? And what do I mean? Okay, so I've seen in my decades of professional experience and also personally, man, I've seen, and I'm going to get experienced air quotes, mechanics, not technicians, mechanics, put everything from, grease, axle grease, WD-40, I mean, all the way anti-seize. And, that's a good one because like some of the air-cooled, like Volkswagens back in the day, and, Porsches and some other stuff, the two dissimilar metals and the air-cooled, basically sometimes, depending upon who put them in, who took them out, would roll the threads. And in order to make the spark plug go in, what they would do is like, well, it wouldn't go in by hand, so I guess it needs a little bit of help, and be spraying stuff on it, like, whoosh. And I've seen anti-seize. I mean, I've seen everything on the threads, I'm telling you. And it's kind of like, it's just the wrong approach, okay? Thread should be dry. All right, and if y'all didn't know, anti-seize actually has glass, teeny tiny glass, round, I would call them balls, whatever you want to call them. I mean, they're really tiny, and they actually act like ball bearings, but it's glass. Anyway, so, man, I've seen everything on it. So here's the whole reason. I don't care if you got a lawnmower or a Ferrari, nothing goes on the threads. Okay, if you can't put those spark plugs in by hand, I mean, you might be a little bit difficult getting out with carbon or maybe something that's on the end of the threads, possibly. But if you can't put that new spark plug in with your fingers, then something else needs to be done. So you need to get something to chase the threads and vacuum the stuff out, or you could put, Vaseline on the chaser, the thread chaser, so anything that's kind of like getting off there will like stick to it. But anyway, don't put anything on the threads, folks. Nothing, okay? Just saying, that's my tip, all right? And if you see anybody doing it, that's a crime, all right? They're going to call the spark plug police, all right? Tip. All right, we're ready to fire it up, and before I put the engine lid on, I'm going to go in and hit the key, all right? just kind of give it a once over real quick, make sure all of the connectors are on. All right. Let's see, it kind of sits on these little stands. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Yay. All right, so got the plugs in, everything's right with the world. Notice I didn't put the cover on the engine until I just made sure everything was okay. Anyway, just checking my work. Anyway, so the tune-up, done, good to go, including our air filter, which we put in earlier. All right, windshield wiper blades, just really a moment. So I want to talk about a moment where, just for a moment about windshield wiper blades. Man, there's a lot of choices. Again, Rock Auto, that's my go-to. Man, I wish they'd pay me anyway. So you can see on Rock Auto where, and most places like that, but Rock Auto is my go-to, is from the cheapest in money to the most expensive. So my rule of thumb is I want at least as good as what came on the vehicle. And usually that is late model vehicle is a beam style, and I'll show you what that is. And you'll go up in price. You'll get all the way to where I guess you get a winter blade or something. Pretty much at that point, that's you don't unless you live in Alaska or something like that. Those things are kind of like over a little bit more than what you need. I'll just put it politely. Anyway, so this is what I have. So I have in this particular application, Trico Ultra. It's a beam style. And although, windshield wiper, anyway, so the windshield wipers are really easy, but I'm telling you, if you make one mistake, and I'm going to show you, if you make one mistake, you could ruin your windshield. Ask me how I know. I've seen it, and yes, raise my hand. One time I did it on a brand new Volkswagen. So, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So, simple operation, but it can turn ugly real quick. So let's watch this. So this particular vehicle, if you try to park the windshield wipers up here, no matter how you do it, it's going to go through a cycle. That's just the way it's programmed. So I'm going to show you what I do, and basically we have to service them in the park position, okay? I put a towel on the windshield, all right? And I know that sounds simple, but if you slip or something happens, and ask me, I've done it and I've seen it, and you're wrestling with it or whatever, and you think it's fine, there's a spring on the back of this that keeps pressure. And all you have to do is touch this, and some of these don't even, kind of cock back all the way for the service position. And I have seen it too many times. So really that's my tip, is take a towel or something, put it right. So if it smacks the glass, it will smack the towel, and usually, I say usually, you won't damage the glass, okay? That's my tip. All right, so there's, in this particular application, there's a 21-inch and a 22-inch, and I'm pretty certain that typically the longer one goes for the driver, because to clear the way, but I'm just speculating right now. So I'm gonna pull the 22, and I'm gonna just basically, yep, can you all see? Got that? All right, you can see I put a towel on the hood just to make sure that if something drops, I don't scratch the hood. Take the cover off here, and that drops out. Okay, see that? Goes right in, and this cover should go right back on it. Here's our new piece here. So it snaps on here, and there's a couple of adapters. This cover was off the old one. Doesn't fit on this, and I actually read the directions. Can you believe it? Anyway, so just a matter of, this is the piece that came with it, and there essentially is no cover. So that's the way it looks like, and we're going to put that back down over there. See these? These are actually the blade protectors. They actually go on the end. Make sure you take them off, okay? Like that. I've actually seen them left on, believe it or not, on the windshield. Okay. All right, so got our blanket on this side of the windshield, so we're all good. I'm gonna lift it up and kind of give this thing a smack, just like that to get it off. It's got it like a loop, so we're just toss that to the side. We got our new one ready to go, and we're just gonna snap that. Just jiggle it to make sure it's in. Yay. Finished. All right, so got our windshield wipers on. I know it's like really simple, but you'd be surprised how many people kind of fumble with it. And here's the other thing is when you get a cheap set, it'll be like a universal fit. And in a lot of these, even some of the better ones, they'll fit more than one vehicle. But what happens is the little adapters are cheaply made, doesn't fit well, flies off. I mean, I could just go on and on. So look, again, here's a tip. Buy a good quality wiper blade with whoever you buy it from, and you won't be fumbling with it and the cheap adapters and all that kind of stuff. Okay? Tip. So, windshield wiper blades. Okay, so I'm going to get to the story real quick. Passenger side windshield washer nozzle. Okay, what happened? So, what was going on is the passenger side windshield washer nozzle, the little elbow, it's made out of plastic, broke. I mean, things got, it's like, I don't know, almost not 10 years old, 9 years old. And so what happened was, okay, no problem. So I go to Rock Auto, okay? Rock Auto sent me some money, okay? Anyway, so I go to Rock Auto and I look at this. The Mopar one, all right, was like $39. I swear to you, it was like that much, all right? And so I'm like, man, it's a windshield washer nozzle. How bad could it be? So I went to and rolled over to a Dorman. Dorman makes a lot of small pieces like that. And man, I've used Dorman. They've been around since like, I think the 80s, or maybe even longer than that. But they do a lot of like small stuff, especially stuff that's, that often breaks or fails, whatever. But really, I've had good luck with all of there's nothing bad to say until now, okay? So the Dorman piece was like half. I think it was $20 or something like that, but it was like half or maybe a little bit less than half. So I'm like, it'll be fine. So of course, I get it and I put it in and I'm gonna show you what happened. See that? See that? You see my face? It's not good. So you can see, and there's no way to adjust these things, by the way. These don't have an adjustment. So it's sitting there, you can see it's spraying right on the hood, and it's just barely hitting the bottom. So guess what I had to do? I ordered the Mopar at $40 from Rock Auto, and that's what we're going to put on today, okay? Here's the underside of it. You can see that it's got this right angle, like rubber piece that goes in. And so this just twists off. You got to be really careful because this line right here is hard plastic and it's real easy to break. All right. And try to get these two little clips off. And it kind of, yeah. So now we put the new one on. Okay. Yay! I guess that was the difference between the $20 one and the $40 one. All right? I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the $20 one. See this? Bicycle. So we got our Mopar, the OE $40 windshield washer spray nozzle, but it's awesome because it works. Okay, so we just turned that frown upside down, okay? In this light. All right, yay.
that's it. That wraps up our maintenance, and I hope you all enjoyed it. And some of it, very basic. Anyway, there you go. There's our maintenance video. Thank you very much for watching, subscribing. Man, our channel is growing. We get a lot of comments, and I'm just very excited. So please like, subscribe. See ya.